Lecture 16 on Death and Mourning. We have reached Lecture 16. For this lecture on death and mourning and how the Aztecs may have thought about the afterlife, I thought it would be a good idea to read extensively from the Florentine Codex, Book 3, titled The Origin of the Gods. At the end of this book, in the appendix, additional chapters are offered, not on the gods specifically, but on various other things, including the dead and the rituals around the dead. Remember that the Florentine Codex features text in Spanish and in Nahuatl, and also it provides images. I will be reading from the Nahuatl according to the translation by Arthur Anderson and Charles Dibble, a work that remains authoritative, by the way. Let's begin reading from Folio 23, verso. It says, "Here beginneth the other part of the third book, the part of the appendix, which telleth of the souls of the dead and of still other services rendered to the devil. First chapter, which telleth of the souls of those who died, who went there to the place of the dead, and of how they were buried. This is what the natives thought, the old men and the rulers, that all who died went to one of three places when they died. The first place was there in the place of the dead, and there in the place of the dead, there dwelt. There was Mictlantecutli, or Sontemoc, and Mictlancihuatl, consort of Mictlantecutli, and there to the place of the dead when all those who died on earth, who died only of sickness, the rulers, the commoners, and when one died, man or woman or child, and when they prayed to him who died honored, they said to him, as he still only was lying, as he still only was stretched out, O my son, thou hast found thy breath, thou hast suffered. Our Lord hath been merciful to thee. Truly our common abode is not here on earth. It is only for a little time, only for a moment, that we have been warm. Only through the grace of our Lord have we come to know ourselves. But now Mictlantecutli hath presented thee Acolnahuacatl, Zontemoc, as well as Mictecacihuatl. He hath provided thee a base. He hath provided thee a seat. For there is our common home. There is our common place of perishing. There is an enlarging of the earth, where forever it hath ended. Thou hast brought thyself to the place of mystery, to the place of the unfleshed, the place where there is arriving, the place with no smoke hole, the place with no fireplace. No longer wilt thou make thy way back, thy return. No more wilt thou bethink thyself, hast gone leaving orphans, thou hast gone leaving people, thy children, thy grandchildren. No more wilt thou bethink thyself how they will each perish. We shall go to reach thee. We shall go to approach thee after some time. So let me just make a quick comment on what this folio says. So first of all, the text uses words like soul, devil, heaven, hell, and similar other words. Now those are more in keeping with Catholic or European Christian than pre-contact religion among the Aztecs, whose philosophy on religion was markedly different than it was in Catholicism or Christianity, as Europeans brought to the Americas. Nevertheless, ethnohistoric sources created in the colonial period are extremely important to understand pre-contact society and colonial one as well, obviously. And actually, that's the fun part of studying that archive, to tease out the elements that are colonial and those that are pre-contact. And keep in mind also that the scribes, the Aztec scribes writing these texts and making the images in the Florentine Codex and other ethnohistoric sources are working under the European gaze. And remember that in the 16th century, the Inquisition was raging in Europe. And so the friars and the Aztec scribes alike had to be very careful. And this is actually part of that colonialism or that gaze from the Catholic Church, because they're talking about pre-contact gods as devils. I should also point out that many Aztec scribes had truly converted to Christianity. And in some instances, what we see is not necessarily an attempt to protect oneself from being punished or even executed during the Inquisition. Sometimes you can see a sense of embarrassment or even shame about pre-contact ideas regarding religion. And as you can see here, that the Lord of the place of the dead denoted underworld. Be very careful. Some texts say it's hell, but in reality, we should translate that as underworld. And the god of that place is Mictlan Tecutli. And Mictlan is the place of the dead. And Tecutli is Lord. So Lord of the place of the dead would be the translation. And as I explained on the lecture on the gods, gods either had ambiguous gender or had a consort. So there was a male-female couple, usually. And over here, in this part of the text, it's very philosophical because it is lamenting that it's only for a moment that we are here on earth. It's only for a little time. So it's lamenting the brevity of life and talking about a common home. And here saying how the dead are no longer having to think about the people they leave behind. They have no more worries about that. And there's no anguish about how each will perish. And this last sentence in this part of the text is reflective of how the people who are alive understand that they will follow the same fate. Let's read now from folio 24 verso. It says, "And here is that with which they entreated the mourner. O my son, grasp all, apply all thy strength. Force thyself, do not abandon the maize gruel, the half tortilla. Strain thyself. Of what avail is it that we speak as we are accustomed? Doth one therefore just feel ill will toward us? Doth one therefore just mock us? Our Lord hath willed it. He hath spoken it. Here is his function. Here is his time to die. How mayest thou bring it about, that he might borrow yet a little, yet a mere day on earth? But well then, thy heart, thy body ache, they are in pain. Well then, it is dark where he hath gone, leaving things, where he awaiteth the word of our Lord. Well then, thou must experience complete orphanhood. What canst thou do? Thou who art afflicted, O my son, apply all thy strength. Do not once again hang thy head as if in grief. Just now we have come to strengthen thy heart, thy body a little. Here have been devoted, have been satisfied motherhood, fatherhood. Our Lord hath destroyed it. Thy fathers, thy mothers have gone. They who could pronounce, who could recount the weeping, the tearful words, enough. Thus we thy mothers, we thy fathers, entreat thee. Pay good heed. Let's read now from folio 25 recto. It says, "Then those skilled with paper, the old men who were experienced, ornamented them." That means the dead. "They kept on cutting, they kept on sundering, they kept on binding the paper. And when they had prepared the paper vestments, thereupon they arrayed the dead one. They sat him up. They poured water on his head. They said to him, Here's what thou hast come enjoying, what thou hast lived by on earth. And then they placed a little water in a small vessel. They gave it to him. They said to him, Here is wherewith thou wilt travel. Then they put the bowl in with him. Thereupon they wrapped the dead one well. They wrapped him thoroughly. They bound him thoroughly. They bound him closely. Then they apportioned his paper vestments. And when they had apportioned them, then they gave him the assemblage. They laid them out before him. They said to him," and then in folio 25 verso, Here is wherewith thou wilt pass, where the mountains come together. And here is wherewith thou wilt pass by the road, which the serpent watcheth. And here is wherewith thou wilt pass by the blue lizard, the Xochitonal. And here is wherewith thou wilt travel, the 8 deserts. And here is wherewith thou wilt cross, the 8 hills. Here is wherewith thou wilt pass, the place of the obsidian bladed winds. And in this place, the place of the obsidian bladed winds, it was said that there was much suffering. By winds were all the obsidian blades, and the stones swept along. And hence, when men died, their kin burnt with them all their baskets with insignia, their shields, their obsidian bladed swords, and all the things they had wrested from their captives, and all their capes, and all which had been their various clothing. Likewise, if it were a woman, all her baskets, her waistbands, her divided cords for holding up the textile, her skeins, her shuttles, her battens, her cane stalks, her combs, also all burnt with her. So this is very interesting because it's telling you here the places that they pass after death. They go through mountains, deserts, hills, and a place of obsidian. And obsidian is a type of glass that you mine. And it's a place of obsidian bladed winds. And it says that there was much suffering because if there's winds, that means the obsidian blades will pierce the body. And also he's talking about how at death, the implements that the dead one used in life, including their clothing for males and females, all was burned with them. And in folio 25 recto, I want you to notice that paper was very much associated with the dead. The dead were decorated with paper banners, and certain gods were also decorated with paper banners. Here's an example from the Codex Tudela, a detail from folio 57 recto. Paper banners adorning the remains of the person who died, and this was a high-ranking official or gentleman who died. And then this is actually a cremation of Izcuauhtzin, a ruler of Tlatelolco. And over here you see the wood. And here's a paper banner over here. These are streamers, and this is the paper banner adorning him. And this is a king. You know that because he's sitting on a reed mat, and he still has the insignia, this cape, and then the crown. And he's in front of a temple at the bottom of the stairs. He has died because his eyes are closed. And this is wood to cremate his body. And here are some mourners. You can see that by the glyphs of tears around the eyes. They're crying over the death of their beloved king. And notice how the body is prepared. They sat him up, they wrapped the dead and bound him, and then adorned him with paper vestments. And then the dead one was given an assemblage. And also notice that it says that the dead was given water. We must keep in mind that at birth, when a baby was born, the first thing the midwife, the doctors we call obstetricians today, who help women to deliver babies, in the bathing ceremony for a newborn Aztec baby, one of the rituals was to give the baby water. And the midwife said, "This will sustain you for life." And it's interesting that the Aztec also did the same ritual at death. And he says, "Here's what thou hast come enjoying, what thou hast lived by on earth." And that's one of the reasons why the water god and goddess are so sacred in Mesoamerica, because humans die very quickly without water, and plants as well. And now let's read from folio 26 recto. It says, "It was said that they would make themselves an enclosure with these things. Thus they would crouch protected from the obsidian bladed winds. Not much would they suffer. But he who had not wretched clothing, who went just as he was, endureth much, suffered much, as he passed the place of the obsidian-bladed winds. And also they caused him to take with him a little dog, a yellow one. They fixed about its neck a loose cotton cord. It was said that it would take the dead one across the place of the 9 rivers, in the place of the dead. And when there was arrival with Mictlantecutli, he gave him the various things with which they had adorned the dead here on earth. So that's nice. Mictlantecutli is actually assisting in this endeavor. The wooden figures, the pine incense, and the smoking tubes, and the loose cotton thread, and the chili red cotton thread, which they had bound up on his capes, on his breech clouts. And the woman gave up her skirts, her shifts, and all her clothing, which she left as she departed, all of which they had bound up. When it was the end of 80 days, then they burned these. Also the like was done when it was the end of a year, and when it was the end of 2 years, and when it was the end of 3 years, but when it was the end of 4 years, it was the last time they did it. So they did the ritual burning every single year for 4 years. And then folio 26 verso says, and this, it was said, all arrived with Mictlantecutli. And when the 4 years had ended, thereupon the dead one went to the 9 places of the dead, where lay a broad river. Again, the imagery of water. There, dogs carried one across. It was said that whosoever went to pass looked over to a dog, and when it recognized its master, thereupon it threw itself into the water in order to carry its master across. Hence, the natives took care to breed dogs. And it was said that a white dog and a black one which was black, it was said, could not carry one across to the place of the dead. It was said that the white one said, I have just washed myself. And the one which was black said, I have just stained myself black. Only the yellow one could carry one across. And there in the 9 places of the dead, in that place there was complete disappearance. And when it came to pass that the old men had ornamented the dead one, then they took him to the fire. And the little dog they first slew. Thereupon the dead one and the dog burned. So they sacrificed a little dog to guide the dead one through this broad river to pass. And it's interesting that the dog is associated with the color yellow. And this is reminiscent of what they say in the Popol Vuh, the book of creation for the Maya, that talks about the death and the rituals that the Maya had. And it talks about the pus. The yellowness is reminiscent of pus, which is a place in the underworld, or Xibal for the Maya, that is described in the Popol Vuh. I have posted a lecture where I read the Popol Vuh out loud and explain certain aspects, by the way, if you're interested. And then folio 27 recto says, 2 sextons took great care of the dead one. And some of the sextons, and sexton is a person who looks after a church, sometimes as a grave digger. So 2 sextons took great care of the dead one, and some of the sextons were gathered singing. And when the body of the dead one already was burning, they took great pains with it. They kept packing it down, and the body crackled and popped and smelled foul. And when it had come to pass that they burned it, thereupon they placed in a heap, they piled up the embers. And they said, let him be bathed. Again, the imagery of water. Thereupon they bathed him. They made a slush. When it cooled, once again, they placed the charcoal in a heap. Thereupon they dug a round hole in which to place it, a pit. This they called a cave. So again, going back to this place of origin that we spoke about earlier in the course. Thereupon they put the charcoal in. Then they covered the pit, And likewise was it done with a nobleman as well as the commoners. So there's this idea of being equal in death. And by the way, I learned in a human sacrifice class that I took in grad school that when you burn a body, the bones do not disintegrate, which I had no idea. Same thing with teeth. When they had burned the body, they sorted out, they gathered up all his bones into an earthen vessel, into a pot, they put them. Upon the bones, they placed a green stone. And that's what in the lecture on materiality I told you is that chalchihuitl or jade. They buried the pot in the home, in the calpulli of the dead one. And the calpulli is literally in Nahuatl a large house, which refers to a city-state, if you will, or a political organization, congregation of people who lived like in a city. The calpulli of the dead one. And where they buried them, they always made offerings to them. So that's a little bit like the Day of the Dead. Look at that. And when the rulers and the noblemen died, they put green stones, again jade, in their mouths. And if they were only commoners, they used only greenish stones or obsidian, a glass, by the way. It was said that they became their hearts. So heart as associated with life itself. And also notice that even though there's equality in death, it's not complete. Whereas the noble people were offered green stones, it was different for the commoners. And here in folio 27 verso, it's showing the elders of the city preparing the body and putting the green stone in the mouth to signify the heart. And here's the burning of the body. And see, they actually put the body sitting up like this, almost like a fetus. And this is what the text was saying, that they bound him in this cloth and also that they tied him up with a rope. And here's the burning because the Aztecs cremated the body. Folio 27 verse says, and the rulers with many things they bedizened, and bedizened means decorated lavishly or dressed up very ornately. Their paper adornment, which they made, was a noble paper streamer, either 4 fathoms or 3 fathoms in length, of paper which they glued together. And upon it they hung various feathers, heron feathers, troupial feathers, dark yellow parrot feathers, scarlet macaw wing feathers, motmot feathers, hawk feathers, and still other feathers. And some became the companions of the dead ones, the beloved slaves, perchance a score of the men as well as so many of the women. Thus they said, as they had taken care of their Lord, they yet made chocolate for him, they yet prepared food for him. And the men who had served them as messengers just so would care for them in the place of the dead. And when the ruler already burned, they thereupon slew the slaves. They only drove bird arrows in their throats. They did not burn with a ruler. Only apart they buried the slaves. Quite alone the ruler burned. So not only was a dog sacrificed, so were the slaves that served the noble people, or the elite, or the upper class. The 1%, as we would call today. And then folio 28 recto says, second chapter, which telleth of those who went to Tlalocan. The second place they went to was there in Tlalocan. And in Tlalocan there was great wealth, there was great riches. Never did one suffer, never did the ears of green maize, the gourds, the squash blossoms, the heads of amaranth, the green chilies, the tomatoes, the green beans, the cempasúchil. And the cempasúchil is it's like an orange flower. It's very fragrant. It's used for the Day of the Dead. It's really quite gorgeous. Fail. And there dwelt the Tlalocs, who were like the offering priests, those of the long disordered hair, who were like the fire priests. And there went those who had been struck by thunderbolts, and those who had been submerged in water, and those who had drowned, and those who suffered from the divine sickness, and those afflicted by pustules, and those afflicted by hemorrhoids, and those afflicted by skin sores, and those afflicted by festering, and those afflicted by the gout, and those whom swelling overcame, those swollen by dropsy who died of it. So all of these people went to Tlalocan, which is the place where Tlaloc and the gods related to rain lived, which was a little bit like an earthen paradise, a paradise on earth that is, as you can see, full of plants. These, when they died, did not burn. They only buried them. So there's a difference, see? They applied liquid rubber to their faces, and they put fish amaranth paste on their cheeks. And by the way, the liquid rubber, sometimes they spatter that on the paper banners. And they colored their foreheads blue, and they gave them each a paper lock of hair at the back for the head. Mountain images they placed before them, and they placed a paper cape over each one. And in their hands they put large wooden staves. And a stave is a vertical wooden post. So they said that in Tlalocan, there is always the putting forth of young shoots. There is always sprouting. It is always spring. It is continually springtime. And then the last folio that we'll read from is folio 28 verso, and it says, third chapter in which are recorded those who went to heaven. And again, be very careful with this word because it means being on top or in the air, in the sky, not necessarily heaven in the Catholic sense or in the Christian or European sense. The third place to which they went was there to the home of the sun in heaven. See? Those went there who died in war, who perhaps right there indeed died in battle. In the warring place where they despoiled them, where their breathing ceased, they laid down their cares, or only were taken in those who were to die later. So in warfare, as we discussed earlier, a lot of the times the Aztecs would wish to take a captive, not kill the person in warfare, but take a captive and then sacrifice that captive at a temple. And there were a lot of rituals involved in that. Perchance one was slain in gladiatorial sacrifice, or cast into the fire, or pierced by darts, or offered up on the beryl cactus, or shot by arrows, or encrusted and burned with pieces of resinous wood. All went to the home of the sun. It was said that they lived together where there was a place like a desert. When the sun appeared, when it came forth, then they made a din. They howled. Shields were stuck together. And he whose shield was pierced by arrows in perhaps 2 places or 3 places could there see the sun. But he whose shield was nowhere pierced by arrows could not see the sun. He could not look into its face. And where the war dead were, there were the magueys, the Cihuacli plants, the mesquite groves. And mesquite are leguminous trees that grow in dry areas. These trees have really long roots, by the way, and they seek water. And all the offerings which the living offered them, they could see. These could reach them. And when they had passed 4 years there, then they changed into precious birds, hummingbirds, orioles, yellowbirds blackened about the eyes, chalky butterflies, feathered down butterflies, gourd-bowled butterflies. They sucked honey from the flowers, there where they dwelt. And here upon earth, they came to suck honey from all the various flowers, the equimito, sompanquahuitl, the xilosochil, and the tlacoxilosochil,